So this week we're talking about content area reading strategies. Those are strategies that can be used flexibly across different disciplines. So as students move from class to class, these are strategies involved in reading that will help them regardless of the class they're in. So that's our focus this week. And we're going to start that focus by looking at comprehension strategies. So why do we take the time out of our planning and instruction to help students with comprehension strategies? Well, when we do provide that support, we see that it promotes deeper understanding of complex text, it enhances retention of what's been read, it facilitates critical thinking, we get that active engagement, and we can navigate the complex text better for a lot of reasons, but mostly because when you are being very intentional and very prescriptive about how you look at a text, you're going to get better at reading it. The metaphor that I like to use when we're thinking about breaking all of these different strategies down is think about it in terms of coaching a baseball swing. So when you're coaching, you are really calling out every single little detail, where the player's feet are, where their hips are, where their hands are on the bat, how hard they're holding the bat, when they swing, where does their shoulder go, how much force do they put into it. All of these things are gone over in really excruciating detail to improve the swing. But once you get into the game, you swing the bat. So that's what we're doing here. We are asking you to think in excruciating detail about how you think while you read text, so that then when you're alone reading text, you can just swing away. Step one, and although the comprehension strategies from this point on don't have to be used necessarily in any order or taught in any order, this one has to come first. We have to make sure that students are monitoring their own comprehension, that they are ready to think, to pay attention to their own experience as they read. They can't employ any strategies to improve their reading unless they know how well they're understanding the text to begin with. From here on in, these can be used interchangeably and flexibly mixed together. So we have asking questions. Good readers ask themselves questions continually as they read, consciously or subconsciously. Now, as we're young readers and we're learning how to read with depth and read for deeper understanding, it helps to be very intentional, very cognitively aware of what we're doing. So having questions prepared that students should be asking themselves while they read can be really helpful. So we both activate and connect to background knowledge. I don't think that this will be unfamiliar to anyone. The common types of activation are thinking about how you can connect to the text yourself, how what you see in the text could connect to something out in the wider world or to another text. Making these connections allows you to start addressing much more layered and nuanced issues more effectively, because if you can make those connections, then you're more likely to understand what you read and more likely to be able to do some of the next strategies. Inferring and visualizing. This is really a fantastic strategy. It does require you to have activated and connected to background knowledge first, because in inferring, you take what you already know about the world and you connect it to something that you've noticed and read in the text to understand something that was not explicitly said, but the author probably expected you to understand. We do this as we read. We also do it in our everyday life. We are built and very good at, we're built for and very good at taking limited information and drawing conclusions. We're going to do a little practice on the next slide. Here, let's just practice what it looks like when you think aloud about a strategy. So here we're asking students to infer and visualize what's going on in this passage. So as we read it, we see the sky was heavy with dark billowing clouds. And we start to build a picture. I'm imagining the clouds that I have seen before. When they say dark, there's a specific color that comes into my head. It won't be the same for everyone, and that's okay. But I picture a dark cloud. Billowing, I know what the word billowing means, so I picture what a billowing cloud looks like because I've seen them before. The streets emptied, the sounds of hurried footsteps. I take in all the details in the passage. And then I can get to the inference. Here's the tricky part. And this is the part that for your kiddos who aren't naturally reading complex text effectively, this is the part they might miss, because this is a part that's hidden inside their own brains. is that we don't just read and then pop, make an inference. It doesn't happen magically like that. What we are doing is we're connecting to something in our background knowledge. So when I see in the text that the streets are empty, the windows are boarded, there's dark billowing clouds in the sky, I search my background knowledge for what do those match? When have I seen billowing clouds in a sky or read about it when the streets were empty, when windows were boarded up, and that kind of like ticks into place of things I've seen before and heard before. And I think this is a major storm. Maybe a hurricane, maybe a tornado, but tornadoes you don't usually have enough warning to board up the windows. So my background knowledge leads me to believe a hurricane is coming to this town. The author doesn't say that. And my inference might be wrong, but my inference is reasonable. There's evidence in the text, I've connected to background knowledge that makes sense, and I've got an inference that could be wrong, but makes sense. So that's what we're talking about when we're slowing down and really explaining our thinking to students. Determining importance, another huge one. Students need to know that not everything they read is as important as everything else. This is tricky though, because purpose really drives importance. I could read a text on one day and think A, B, and C is important, come back the next month and have a different purpose for my reading, and instead think, oh no, actually it's B, E, and S. Those are the most important pieces now, because my purpose has changed. So thinking through, and this is very discipline specific, by the way, what makes something important totally depends on your purpose, which totally depends on your discipline. So helping students recognize how you decide what is most important gives them a window in how to use this strategy in your discipline. This is our last one, and it's summarizing and synthesizing. So think of a summary as taking all the things you decided were important and putting them in a cohesive list in a paragraph. So you have multiple details that were important, maybe a sentence or two connecting them together. Synthesis takes that summary and then connects it to something else. Think of it as combining inferring and determining importance. I've decided what's important in the passage, and now I'm going to connect to other things I know about myself, about the world, about texts I've read. I'm going to connect to those things to help build even deeper meaning around what I realized was important from what I read. All right, this is our first part of the commentary. There'll be another part up. Make sure that you are looking at and reading through these so that they can help you do the assignments in the rest of the module.